Hi everyone, this is Jenny. I am going to film myself making a layout for the Pinkfresh studio and the pretty little studio blog hop that we are doing. And I have a good idea of kind of what I'm going to do, but some of these products are really amazing, and so I thought it'd be fun to just go ahead and film a little bit of it. I'm going to try and do some modeling, paste, and painting. So anyway, I will run through the products real quick. These are some of the newest Pinkfresh things that are just out of this world. These are called wood drop stickers. They're wood veneers, and then in the middle of them there's a little recessed piece of this chevron that are epoxy-like stickers inserted, and they are absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to use some of those, I hope. These are more of the drop stickers that are label kind of frames and epoxies. I've already used some of the other colors that are more kind of the boy neutral colors, so these are the pinks. These are gorgeous. These are the Studio Puffs in gold. The little border puffy stickers. There's this one that's sort of an irregular one, and then there's the scallop that's, you know, regular even scallop. This is an amazing stamp set they just came out with. It's called the, I forgot the name of it. The Anya stamp set. And it's these alphabets that are really, my son called it an erector set. That you sort of piece them together, and so there's so many possibilities. They're real retro and real funky, which I love. And they have a great card with it that I totally needed because I used them on another project, and it kind of shows you an example of how to use some of them. There's a gazillion different options, and they'd be great for just using all these different dots because they're different size polka dots. They have these other shapes that you can use as borders or come up with your own thing. There's endless possibilities with that, so those are really cool. And I've already used some of the alphabets on a different project, so I may use, okay, it's not working out, I may use these, maybe some of those little swirly curly cues as a border or something. Another stamp set from Pinkfresh, and I thought I might use that smile or the that little greenery border or the Life is Beautiful. This is one from the limited edition kit, and I love this Totally Delightful. I've used it before, but I thought I might use it again. These were the label frames, the drop stickers in the more masculine color. There's a navy that's nice and this teal color, so I don't know if I'm going to use that. And these are the Pinkfresh. Oh, and this is the other washi tape from Pinkfresh that I may use. It's this mint and coral ombre with gold stripes. That's lovely. These are the pretty little studio products that I may use for part of this, or will. These are the shipping tags, and the collection is called Chrysanthemum, and it's so pretty. It's sort of kind of an ombre in different colors, but it's got these sort of like bokeh print sort of backgrounds, but it's not just the sort of bokeh and like kind of lens flare circles. It's in stars, it's in hearts, it's in several different things, and it comes in kind of a neutral and this sort of teal color, and then sort of a teal to green, and then the yellow to coral. So I thought I might use several of those. These are the Marigold Bee Balm Gold Foil Butterfly stickers that are gorgeous, and so I'm probably going to use those. And then these are the watercolor summer words in that same Marigold collection, and I've already used one of those stickers. They come in that same, you know, goes all the way down. It's just lovely. So I may use some of those, or this other die cut that is out of a light wood grain, oops, and it's Adorable is the name of it, so I may use that instead. These are some of the papers that I'm thinking about using. This is a vellum. Let's see if I can put it on this. You can see it. It's called Hazel, and it's a very sort of organic mint colored chevron. Beautiful. They have the most amazing vellums. They are 8x8s, which is a really interesting size. I mean, it's bigger than the 6x6, obviously, but it's nice because I love I love a lot of symmetry sometimes, and I love, you know, having an equal border, and it's bigger than a 6x6, so it fits better on a 12x12 to me. This is that same marigold one, and this is the whole vellum sheet of that sort of bokeh print and all those things, which I think is just beautiful. And then a nice black and white. It's called Wax Flower is the name of that. And I'm going to put everything on just to probably a plain sheet of cardstock. This is the stencil that I'm probably going to use from Heidi Swapp. And I've got either a metallic gold paste, but this is a very subtle gold, and it's not yellowy gold. I love the color of it, but I think to go with some of these brighter foil colors, that may not work as well. So I thought about using just a white modeling paste and then trying to paint on top of it. So we may try that first. We'll see. And then I have some of those stamps I may actually use some gold embossing powder on. And I've got some watercolors for this giant little cup of... When I find a bunch of die cuts that I like on my silhouette, I will just cut out a whole bunch of them from white cardstock, and then I put them aside and decide whether I'm going to use them or not. So I've got some neat... You can't really see them. I've got some neat little flowers and roses, lots of those actually, of these sort of little petals and roses. A bunch of these little labels, sort of banners, and a couple that have these neat little word cutouts. There was a beautiful, wonderful, the heart you, this little heart with more hearts cut out of it, and then a little jar with the heart, which I love. So I thought about putting something in that, like sequins or something, or we'll see. So some of that may get watercolored and used on this project or another one. And that's, it's amazing how many of these I will use much later, not for an intended project, I'll just come back to it later and they'll fit in, and I love to watercolor them and make them fit with some project that's perfect. So this is the photograph of my daughter that I think my husband took actually when she wasn't really looking, and I printed it out on a 4x6, but I cut it more like a Polaroid, and then I had cut this, actually this was a scrap, but I cut that little piece of black paper underneath it to pop it out. So I think I may use that little mat for it and then work that out. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this mask, and I'm going to start with the white modeling paste and see how that works and maybe paint over it. If that does not work, then we may go back to the gold, but I really think that gold may be... I don't want it to compete with the other gold, so actually that might be nice, but it is a very, it has a definite sheen to it, but it's much more subtle. I don't know how to, it's not matte, it is shiny, and it does have a nice finish, but it's not gold like this. So anyway, I'm going to get everything set up, and we will see where we go from there.
Alrighty, I have sped the video up a good bit because a lot of it seems repetitive, and a lot of it is, I really didn't know how much talking I could do through it, and that seems to be what everybody would like to hear. I just, there was a lot of it that really didn't need to be talked about. This is that heart mask, and I just used plain modeling paste. This is actually a pretty old tube of it, and I think I need some more. It was really stiff, which isn't a bad thing, but it actually probably helped it dry a bit. I didn't really spread it thick, but I didn't really pay too much attention to what I was doing, and I did get through some of those little, through some of the negative pieces, and not just all the hearts. So washi is the perfect thing for that because it doesn't stick to the paper, and it holds it down. So I put that aside to dry, and then I have all of these tags that I had cut out on the silhouette, and I decided what I was going to do is to use some of the plain tags and stamp some of the Pinkfresh stamps on it, and then paint and then layer those on top of these other ombre tags that are from Pretty Little Studio. So I'm kind of trying to line them up and decide how they're going to look before I decide what to stamp where and what to paint. I kind of had a completely different idea of the way it was going to come out, and I really am pleased with the way it turned out in the end, which you'll see shortly. But I went ahead and just used these VersaFine black ink to stamp that one stamp just to really make it stand out. And then I wanted to really tie in as much of the gold as I could, so I used the Smile stamp that is from, I can't remember which set it's from, but I heat embossed it with some gold glitter embossing powder. And I used that embossing powder again on another tag you'll see in a moment. So I just I thought it would be nice to help tie in a little bit of the gold with the butterflies and the puffy stickers, but not too much. So I wanted those to stand out. I just wanted a little bit left of that. Plus, that was one of the sort of plain tags I thought would be nice to kind of do that on. So I end up taking this other tag, and it's got a heart U, and I just sort of patted it down into the embossing or the VersaFine ink, and then dipped it a couple times into that same gold glitter embossing powder, just to kind of give the edge a dip, sort of, or just sort of gold glitter edge. I guess I could have glittered it completely and not mess with the embossing, but it did help it so it doesn't shed. It just stays on there really well. So now I've got those layered, and then I decide I'm going to go ahead and paint the other pieces. I didn't end up using any of those flowers that I cut out, and I will use those on something else, but I just decided I wanted to keep it a little bit more simple and just kind of tie in those hearts and a little bit of gold. So I take my watercolors, and I'm just going to paint these on, and I've got the tag that I'm going to paint it, that it's going to be layered on top of, next to it, and then I'm trying to kind of match some of that color. And so it sort of blends in with it, but still, you still see a little bit of it. For some reason, I couldn't get that one to work out. It was a little bit too light, and this one's kind of gray. So anyway, I go through that, and then I decided to go ahead and paint over the other tags completely too. And I was kind of worried about the embossing powder maybe getting too mixed up with it, but it did great. So I like the way that turned out, and then I decided to go ahead and do all of them like that. Actually, I think I left the that Totally Delightful stamped one plain, because the tag that I layered it on top of was very pale. It didn't have a lot of color to it. It was a little bit gray, so I don't think I messed with that. I was afraid it might bleed the ink. So now my embossing powder is dry. It's hard to see it on that little bit, but I'm trying to decide. I really love that black and white stripe paper, but I kind of wanted it to be a little softer. So even though I did use that black matte to sort of pop up the picture a bit, and I used some black later on, I wanted it to be more subtle than that. So I go ahead and mount that and kind of make that commitment. And I pretty much always put my photos on Pop Dots a lot of times so I can tuck things underneath it, and I knew I wanted to tuck some of those gold puffy stickers underneath it. And I had kind of planned to layer this back over like I'm showing you, and try to paint on top of the hearts. Because I didn't tape down the mask completely, it bled underneath a lot of it with the paint. It didn't really bother me too much. There were a couple places, and I kind of shifted the main cluster up to cover a little parts that I didn't like, but I mean, it's supposed to be loose and so kind of messy. So I'm trying to kind of line up the colors that you see from that ombre vellum and paint across to kind of match that so that they'll kind of line up, and then place it accordingly. But I was pretty quick with this. I didn't tape it down like you see, and I used a lot of water, so it did get underneath it. I mean, I'm pretty pleased with the way it came out in the end. So it's not quite the kind of look I had planned, and I might try to do that again. See, it just looked really messy to me here, and I really was starting to regret doing that. But I do like the way it came out because you really don't see as much of it. You just sort of see a little bit peeking out. The part that bothers me is the worst is that part of that top left corner with that kind of big gray blob of a heart. So I end up moving the entire photo cluster up to kind of cover that up a bit. And so I just make sure that's dry and kind of dry it a bit with my heat tool. And I put that off to this, oh no, I don't put it off to the side. So there I'm trying to decide where to kind of line it up and how I wanted it to sit. I thought I wanted to have these tags all run across the bottom. And then I realized that I had kind of done them and painted them all in the same sort of ombre thing, so I decided to turn them vertically and let them kind of line up with the same similar colors that were next to it, and I really liked the way that looked. And then I did move them over to the other side to cover up a bit more of that heart, so that's pretty much the way the final layout starts to look as far as placement. And then I had cut off a little bit of that white paper and put another piece of, I believe it's from the Dear Lizzie Polka Dot Party collection. It's just a peach paper that has a little bit of sort of white sprinkled paint on it. I just layered that underneath it to pop out the paint a little bit. That's the title piece, that adorable one I was going to use. And then I do use some of those other stickers. So now I kind of decided I'm going to go ahead and commit to it. It's pretty dry, and I used a good bit of adhesive because it did warp, and I did use a lot of paper. I'm sorry, a lot of water, but that really helps stick it down in it so it doesn't really pull up that much. So I line those tags up kind of the way I think I'm going to do that, and then I go ahead and start to adhere those to each part of it. So honestly, you really don't see a lot of the hearts, and the part that you do see at the bottom, I think, it just sort of helps weigh down the top corner that becomes heavy with all of the paper up there, and so the paint sort of at the bottom. And I just did those pretty quick and messy and just kind of layered it all on top of that. I just put a little bit of vellum on that right side that would be under the picture, and then a good bit more on under the tags. And then I used some of these gold foil butterflies and I think I only used pop dots on that one, but I ended up putting staples through several of them to make sure they stayed on. I didn't want to go crazy with it because I really like that color. I just wanted to accent a little bit more with the gold and sort of have these little dots of gold, the puffy stickers or puffy borders and the butterflies and the bit of embossing. I decided that those tags look a little bit naked, so I decided to take some twine and just wrap it around, and I kind of wanted to tie it all together, but then I kind of needed it to go through the holes, so I just really just started shoving it this way and that, and just made it kind of messy and have it wrapped around it a bit just to give it a little bit more texture. And that twine actually is sort of an ivory color, and it's got a little string of gold in it. I believe it's Maya Road. So I tie that in a little knot there. And then once I've got it pretty much where I want it, I go ahead and glue everything else down. A lot of times I'll work on the whole cluster kind of all together, and then when I'm happy with the way it is, put it down on the paper at the end. That way, if I want to change something around, or if it does have and a lot of times I'll sew it that way. If I do use my sewing machine, I'll sew it that way first so that it's easier on my sewing machine, doesn't get too far into that. I ended up kind of fussy snipping a bunch of those pop dots to make that title stand up. I didn't want it to get smushed in my page protector too much. And I do go through a lot of pop dots, but I do, I really only use them mostly for photos. So I'm going to add some more of the butterflies. And that's where I lifted that up and stapled that one down. I didn't, I wanted the wings to kind of pop up, but because it was a sticker, it was going to sort of sit down a bit. So then these are the ombre stickers, and there's wonderful, amazing, and awesome. And I took the ones that matched the same color exactly and put them, just sort of lay them down on top of that same vellum that matched the colors. I think it adds a little bit to it without, I mean, you kind of have to look at it more to see exactly what it says. And I had picked out all of these vellums and the ombre colors that all came from this Marigold collection, and I loved the way they all looked, but then I didn't quite know what to do with them all together. But I really am pleased with the way it kind of, it kind of all worked together. I used a couple of the little stickers just here and there around the same kind of colors, and then I believe I used some that's one more little butterfly that I put down there. I used some of the washi tape that is from Pinkfresh, that's a sort of coral and gold stripe. It's got a little bit of mint on there too, and so I just tucked it behind a couple of the pieces of paper to tie in a little bit of that color more, and use those sort of as a place where the gold puffy borders would be stuck on top of. At this point, none of this was just, I just sort of start putting stuff on there as I, as I like it, and decide what I think. I really can't use too much of that gold in one place, it seems like, because I didn't want it to be too overpowering. But I like the little touches like that, and that gave me a place there to write the date on. So I do a little bit of the journaling on top of my vellum there, and I didn't use a slick writer, so I think I had to wait a little while for that one to dry, but it worked out fine. And then I'm going to drop some India ink on it to just bring a little bit more of that black out. I was afraid to make too much of a mess with it, and just made sure I covered up the photo. But I do think that helps a little bit with that frame and makes the colors a little bit brighter. And that is it. Here are the close-ups, and then you can see the final product at the end. Thanks so much for watching, and I'd love any feedback or comments that you have. I'm still trying to get back into making regular videos, so I really appreciate all the comments that everyone has given me and all the sweet words. Thanks very much. Bye.